Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren threw gas on the fire that is the Pac-12 right now, and as you may have guessed, that's good news for the Big 12. Welcome into the YouTube channel. I am John Kurtz. If you have not subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. Talk college football all week here on this channel from a Big 12 slant. Right now, that is conference realignment heavy. I'm live on Wednesday and Sunday and sprinkling content throughout the week as well. Well, Big Ten Media Days are happening right now, and that is why we have this story and this video right here. Kevin Warren, and we can talk about this on the live chat coming up tonight, but that guy is operating like a G right now. He is out for the best interest of the Big Ten above all else. No platitudes about the health of the game and some of the things we're even hearing about the SEC right now. Where that puts the Pac-12 in the crosshairs is his comments regarding expansion and what the next couple of years will look like. And when you combine that with some reporting from Brett McMurphy, things do not look good for Pac-12 stability in the long term. Maybe the short term as well, but in particular, the long term. So here we go. Here's what we have from Kevin Warren. It says, this is reading from an ESPN article here at this point, before we get to the Brett McMurphy reporting. Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren said further expansion beyond USC and UCLA is possible if done for the right reasons, and the league will take a bold approach toward major changes in college athletics. I get asked every single day, what's next? Warren said to open Big Ten Football Media Days. It may include future expansion, but it will be done for the right reasons at the right time with our student athletes' academic and athletic empowerment at the center of any and all decisions that will be made. We will not expand just to expand. It will be strategic. It will add additional value to our conference. Now, here is another quote to mix in there that was from Brett McMurphy's article. And this from Kevin Warren says, quote, when I say add value, value is important, but I just look at the fit. A fit has to be there academically, has to be there athletically. All those things are really important. There are a handful of schools that potentially could add value to us, but I'm so focused right now that we welcome USC and UCLA to our conference in 2024 with open arms. So the key part of that is there are a handful of schools that could potentially add value to us. And really what he's saying there already is a stronger statement than what we have been seeing out of the SEC, which seems to have taken more of the approach, both publicly and the reporting going on behind closed doors, of more like, hey, we're good. We feel great about our league. We're not really that worried about the Big Ten and the competition. We're going to be fine. We'll stack us up against anybody. And we know that viability of the game in general is key to our viability and profitability. Not quite that same tone from Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren, leaving things open a little bit more, but this is where it really starts to get scary for the Pac-12, okay? He has said that he's open to expansion and that there are a handful of teams that could add value. We didn't know those specific teams because he didn't publicly say that, but now bring in Brett McMurphy from the Action Network, a guy who covered realignment 10 years ago, has worked at ESPN, one of the best around in college football. One of the reporters that when he puts something out, you know this is very legitimate. All right, so it says, Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren told the Action Network there are, quote, a handful of schools besides Notre Dame that would add future value as Big Ten members. The schools being considered by the Big Ten, sources told Action Network, are, ready for this? Notre Dame, we do that, Oregon, Washington, Stanford, Cal, Miami, and Florida State. Warren would not comment on specific schools as potential members. As far as a timetable and number of teams the Big Ten will add, that is unknown. Quote, it could be 2 months to 2 years, another source said. There could be an odd number, and there are not any specific number of teams. Now that is where it starts to get very, very trepidatious for the Pac-12. In other words, yikes if you're the Pac-12. I mean, there were 4 schools right there, and the ones that are holding all the value. I mean, specifically 3. Cal, basically, think of them as the UCLA to Stanford. Cal is to Stanford as UCLA was to USC, right? Taking the extra tag along there to just lock up that whole Bay Area market, much like the LA market. But man, those are the 4 schools that you're really relying on now if you're the Pac-12. And they now know they're one of the best dogged reporters in college football that they're on the short list for the Big Ten. And from that other source, it could be 2 months, it could be 2 years. Kevin Warren even had a quote that we'll get to later on where he said expect a rocky landscape over the next 3 to 4 years. They're basically just leaving the door wide open for the next couple of years that this very well could be on the table for all of these schools. So why in the world then, if you're Oregon, Washington, Cal, or Stanford, are you at this point lining up to sign your grant of rights away for any amount of time? That is going to create a real mess for the Pac-12 when it comes to not just TV dollars, okay? Even if you can get decent dollars, when they know that the Big Ten is still floating out there and right there and publicly being this open about it, and then the reporting that's going on that they're on the short list, how are they going to sign any kind of grant of rights? Anything. So now you're pushed into a leverage situation where those schools have all the leverage in negotiating. And we've talked about some of the issues that have been rumored with unequal revenue sharing, that the rest of the league wouldn't like that. Obviously, with Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12, we've seen how that works out. It does not typically end very well, and that's not something the rest of the league is going to want. Now you got 4 schools that I'm sure would be in there saying, look, we want a bigger slice of the pie because we are the more important ones, and we also want a free exit to the Big 10. And so then when you have that, like, how stable really is your conference? How are the other schools feeling about that? This is where the problems really start to trickle down. And these are the things that are frustrating about the TV rating stories that are coming out from the Mandels of the world, where it's like, okay, yes, great. That is true that the Pac-12 does have Pac-12 After Dark that can help them. But even if you're able to get a TV partner to give you, I don't know, somewhere in the mid-30s, which seems like perhaps a realistic target for the Pac-12, you're still going to be a little bit behind financially, even the Big 12 and the ACC. And then just what is the stability within the conference? What is the feeling within the conference? We have felt that in Big 12 country for so long with the Texas and Oklahoma stuff, even back to everybody leaving in 2010, 2011, that area where they just never felt like there was stability and everybody was always kind of looking over their shoulder, peeking out for what else is out there. The Pac-12 will be in that for eternity, basically, until one of these schools actually gets their Big Ten invite. Because do any of us see this ending with the Big Ten not expanding further, especially after these comments from Kevin Warren at Big Ten Media Days? I sure don't. So that is bad news for the Pac-12. Bad news. And those are comments that really destabilize things. And how about this? This is from a Big Ten athletic director, according to Brett McMurphy. He says, "This is chess, not checkers. We have to do what's best for us. The old days of college athletics are gone. Checkers is over. The old days of college athletics is over. This is a business." And then McMurphy says, "I mentioned to Warren, it's apparent the Big Ten is not messing around anymore. The league will do what's best for the Big Ten Conference." And Warren said, quote, "We're not messing around. This is how we got in this position. I don't want to be Sears or Roebuck." Okay, obviously companies that used to be behemoths that have now become obsolete. That is not what he is trying to do. This is a man on a mission. This is a conference on a mission. And yes, in general, is that a little trepidatious if you're a Big 12 fan because you're wondering, like, all right, like, where is this going to go after this 3 to 4 year period that Warren said would be fairly unstable? Will we be a part of this? Totally fair to question that and worry about that and think that the Big Ten is going to accelerate it even faster into a 2-league deal. But as it relates to the Big 12 Pac-12 battle, it would certainly put the Big 12 on much better footing than the Pac-12. And a part of that may be the relationship that the two commissioners of those leagues have. So regarding that and on that front, here is more from Brett McMurphy's article. It says, if the Big Ten adds more Pac-12 teams, the Big 12 could pursue Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah from the Pac-12, sources said. Warren has developed a close relationship with new Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark. Ironically, both Warren and Yormark's leagues could take teams from the Pac-12. So if the Pac-12 are no longer a power league, a key question immediately jumps out. Could the Rose Bowl actually pivot to a future of a Big Ten, Big 12 matchup? Well, first of all, sign me up for the Rose Bowl. Having to take Baylor, K-State, Oklahoma State to stay alive here, Texas Tech in the Rose Bowl, like things that you couldn't imagine that stuffy bowl wanting to do ever. That would be a hilarious turn of events here. I love that, and that's something that I hadn't even thought about. Number 2, that's a fairly meek statement about Big 12 expansion. Obviously, I think a lot of people would look at that and be like, well, I mean, of course, if the Big Ten takes Oregon and Washington, then all, bets are off there. Yes. It's not a statement of like, hey, the Big 12 is absolutely going to go raid the Pac-12 even before Oregon and Washington have left. But that's generally, I mean, most national media, they're not going to jump on that until it really happens. And at least this one is not coming with a side of inaccurate to lacking context TV numbers, which we're getting obviously from other sources. So this is not McMurphy going all in on like, well, but the Pac-12's fine. No, he's saying like he's just much more like straight to the facts reporting here instead of trying to really stump for the Pac-12. So I think that's fair enough. But don't miss the importance here of Brett Yormark being tight with Kevin Warren. Now, reason to doubt the sincerity of that? Sure, because Kevin Warren had the alliance written on a Chili's napkin that he just blew up. And so at some point, you can't really trust Kevin Warren, but that is not a bad guy to be in bed with if it's on any level sincere. And maybe, I don't know, did the Big 12 ask Kevin Warren or some of the other commissioners about who they should hire as commissioner? Is it known? Was it known that Warren had a good relationship with Brett Yormark and that could be something that helps? I mean, hey, if the Big 12 winds up being the vessel to take in some second-tier ACC teams and some second-tier Pac-12 teams, to help the Big Ten get some Pac-12 teams, to help the SEC or Big Ten get the ACC teams that they want, if that conference dissolves. I know there's been a lot of talk of how many teams would have to be going to. I understand that's convoluted, but if we start to extrapolate this out, you can see that path developing where, hey, maybe Kevin Warren says, hey, the Big 12 could actually help us out in getting some of the schools that we want here. All speculation, but these are the kinds of things that would be possible if Yormark really does have that kind of relationship with Kevin Warren. And we've already seen Warren backstab George Kliavkov. So we have not seen that yet with Yormark. We have with Kliavkov. It's a lot to think about. We can talk about it more on the live show coming up tonight. But these were all very good developments yesterday for the Big 12. If you're a Big 12 fan, everything that's going on here. And I can't imagine that landed well in Pac-12 country. And it will be fascinating to see George Kliavkov, who I believe speaks on Friday at Pac-12 Media Day. So strap it in. It's going to be a wild ride, I think, over the next couple of weeks here. All right, again, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do consider that. I talk college football conference realignment, all from a Big 12 slant here on the channel all week. And make sure you hit the bell so you know when I'm going live and you know when it is that I drop some new content. You can support the channel on Venmo, John-Kurtz-4, and you can follow me on Twitter at JLKurtz. I'll talk to you guys soon.